All right, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Vice Forecaster JD Rep with you in the USA Severe Weather Network Center. We have a couple severe thunderstorm warnings. We've been having tornadoes on the ground this afternoon, so there is still a tornado watch that goes into effect until 10 p.m. tonight. So technically, there's still storms that can get the spinning going with this area. So hold on a second. So we have that severe thunderstorm warning. These two warnings go into effect. So let me drill into these two severe thunderstorm warnings. Um, Western Tyler County and Big Bay, Florida. Jefferson County and Big Bay, Florida. Western Madison County and Big Bay, Florida until 6:15 p.m. Eastern Time. 5:10, a severe thunderstorm was located. All right, hold on a second. We got Isaac jumping on. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Isaac?
Yes.
Okay, we got the severe thunderstorm warning. I was just reading the text. It's located along the line extending from eastern St. Marks to 37 miles west of and moving northeast at 70 miles per hour. That's pretty quick. So hazard 60
Yeah.
miles of wind gusts and hail the size of quarters. So I'm gonna let you take over for a second on this one warning.
Yeah. Basically, if you put this in motion, as I have been, so some of the high resolution radar, you can see with the storms tracking northeast, I believe that they are definitely tracking, that we get more convective frontal convection here off the Gulf of Mexico here with that front as it continues to push east. I think these storms are overall, they're tracking through a very highly sheared environment. So what we do expect here, as some of these storms do maintain their strength, I mean, we're talking about some of these storms tracking some cases over 70 miles per hour. So I mean,
And and you're not gonna have time to wait on these storms today either, folks.
yeah,
So if you go
potentially.
under a tornado warning or something, and even a 70 miles of gust is still not enough to. 70 miles of wind is enough. It's enough to go into topple a tree through your window. So you definitely not want to have time today.
Yeah, I would definitely expect as those storms continue to track through the
All right,
frontal.
we just got a new one for Florida. Florida,
Yeah,
looks like
that is
now.
yeah. I was going to say we have several storms um, to monitor there, especially that cell here in the southeast part of the
If I can
Orlando
get the pull up.
metropolitan area. Yeah, I was going to say,
All right, here we go. And see, these cells are separate from each other. These are the ones that can produce tornadoes sometimes. So
yeah,
I'll pull the warning up here.
yeah.
South
Could you
Central.
get some here? You don't have to read the text for each warning. Could you give us base velocity on that one? Because I
Yes,
am
I was. Yes, I'll
because
do that for you.
yeah, yeah.
There we are. Yeah, anytime you get the red next to green like that, that is some rotation a little bit.
Yeah, there is weak rotation with that evident with that cell. Definitely looks like definitely has some more elevated supercellular characteristics with that
Very,
particular cell. So I mean, potentially that could be a storm that appears capable of producing some hail if that updraft kind of weakens a bit. I think what's going to end up happening when you get something like that is that I think I think some of the I think that there could be a stronger downdraft with a storm like that. So, I mean, I would expect as that continues to track, maybe the low level shear is increasing down towards there as well. But I do expect the prime severe weather risk to be further north. So we'll see how that storm does track. But it does look like there is weak rotation evident with that cell. Just looking at the yeah, I was going to say I do think that there's like under 30 knot gate to gate shear, but I mean nothing that has been substantial or nothing that looks to um, be tornadic or anything at the moment, but still looks like there is some weak rotation with that cell. Definitely looking like a hail, maybe gusty wind concern with that cell, but I would definitely pay closer attention to those cells, but to those thunderstorms
Let
that
me
are
check the hail
tracking.
threat. This one don't
Yeah.
have any hail, that one, so that is good news. I'm curious what this one kind of has. So let me take a look down here. Yeah, there's a little
Yes.
bit.
Yeah, I was going to say that that appears to have a more elevated updraft. So I mean, over much of the broad portion of the
It was
southeast.
having some strong hail before it came a warning, so um, I don't want to roll out a tornado with any of these today. I mean, if cell pops up, the environment's there, right, Isaac?
Yeah, correct. I mean, I've looked at some of the mesoanalysis data just recently from the Storm Prediction Center. I believe, like the further north you get, I believe the higher low level shear is present, and you can see just I would pay closer attention to some of that frontal convection here off the Gulf of Mexico up towards again areas around Tallahassee. That is definitely where we have the highest low level shear. I believe we have well over 30 knot returns here on mesoanalysis. So I mean, some of those couplets that do form. I mean, some of the tighter velocities. I mean, I was interested to see some of the shear data coming out of Early County, Georgia earlier. They have had a report of a tornado. We had actually a report.
And I want you to tell everybody we're not going to roll out a few strong tornadoes.
Yeah, I mean, there is that possibility. I will point out. So, like, I mean, a lot of what we're seeing now is more like elevated thunderstorms. I mean, some of the more elevated convection that we're seeing. I mean, those could turn into strong downdrafts and
Supercells.
rear flanks. Yeah, right. I mean, a lot of these are containing supercellular characteristics, but I'm still interested in that cluster.
Yeah, it's coming in a line, so that'll just be gusty winds. But like I said, I was going to tell by another thing. If all of those storms were in about a high, if the watch was showing all high, that would have been a PDS.
Well, yeah. I mean, as defined by the Storm Prediction Center, I'm going to get some of the kind of the statistical information here from this product here. So
I'm taking a look at velocity again.
Number 8.
It runs for 10 p.m.
I will point out the probability of 2 or more tornadoes in this watch product is 50%. But also the probability of seeing one or more stronger, or like anywhere from EF2 to who knows EF5 tornadoes, that probability is at 30%, which is borderline where it gives you the moderate category there.
So like I said, I always tell people it doesn't matter if you even get an EF2 tornado today, it's going to be a bad day if that happens.
Yeah, correct. It depends ultimately where you are, and
mission everybody. Since you're really good at this stuff, and I am too, but tell people this is not the only chance of severe weather we have.
Yeah, most definitely. We are monitoring again this wave, and looks like again the overall dynamics with this system. I mean, obviously, well into the Ohio Valley, that's where we have that very strong closed upper low. And I mean, just the overall dynamics. We're seeing that prime warm air advection along that huge corridor, and pretty strong height falls. I'm pretty sure too. I would be interested to see the upper air maps here compiled earlier in the. Or I would have to look at 12Z because that data doesn't come in till later. But yeah, I mean, we're definitely seeing the influence of that very strong shortwave trough as it pushes well into the Gulf of Mexico, and I mean that is producing very strong warm air advection. I would be interested to see the 850 millibar data too.
Wow!
Because I mean this is where we got that very good corridor for again warm air advection, and again that's where we have that kind of stronger low level trough kind of dominating, and again and then at the surface definitely as well because again at the surface the latest analysis here. I mean, I mean, just the overall dynamics, so we had that cold front churning across the Florida panhandle. I mean, the overall dynamics just at the surface have been quite impressive. So, I mean, we got temperatures in the 50s across the panhandle, but yeah, I mean, the temperatures there's a very good temperature contrast, what you got with this front. So, I mean, we have areas into the
All right,
60s.
we just got one warning now. I mean, see, things are just I'm still watching because we would probably see more warnings before the night's up, would we?
Yeah, potentially. There is that possibility. Again, this just seeing how what the dynamics are like with this front. I mean, we
Yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
lot of
so I am going to tell everybody too. This is not the time to freak out. Just have your weather radio handy and tell people mobile homes may not be safe to go into tonight. I mean, at this event, you might want to stay at some friend's house until this whole thing's over because once the weather service is calling for like EF2 or more tornadoes, that's gonna flip it over, right?
Yeah, and again, the probability of seeing one or more of those in this watch product is again 30%. So I mean,
So that means that. So what
generally
does that
this is
mean?
so I
Does
mean
that mean does that mean the 30% of seeing a tornado in 25 miles a point? You mean?
not it's not based solely off of like distance, just within this whole product altogether. So obviously what we're seeing here, the possibility of seeing two or more tornadoes within this watch product is 50%. So I mean, this isn't going to be a huge tornado outbreak by any means. This is going to be a more localized situation. Potentially where the storm, where I mean the low level shear is quite highest, where this tornado watch number 8 is right now, and I believe some of tornado watch number 7, we still got that around there.
Into
So I
10
mean,
p.m. And like I said, and tomorrow we got a low in fret, and I still won't be surprised if they bump it up to a slight. What about you? What's your
so
thoughts on that?
So I mean, this is again a marginal risk. I mean, definitely by the way things are looking, this is going to be shear driven. I don't necessarily know if this is good. There's quite impressive dynamics that far south because we'll have to see how things are looking at the surface here heading into tomorrow when you're talking that far south. But I mean. That front does track well into it drapes across New England well into the Florida peninsula, and
Yeah, yeah, right.
obviously the surface low is going to be quite further away. And I mean, by the way, I think tomorrow, since there's a greater distance from that surface low and just all that frontal convection you're getting all over Florida, I think what we're going to have to focus on, I'm going to see what the sounding data looks like here heading into
Okay, you want
tomorrow.
me to pull
There's
mine up,
quite a bit
or
of
you want me to pull
uh,
mine up?
here. Well, I mean, I'm still answering your question about tomorrow, but the
Oh,
way are looking.
let me.
I mean, there is sufficient low level instability. That's definitely the way things are looking, and I mean low level shear. I believe it's. I mean, I think that's embedded where we're getting all that instability and everything. I want to definitely see how broad it is
Yeah,
because if
I won't
there's
be
a broad
surprised
area.
here if we saw. I'm gonna, I won't be surprised if this warning over here would come severe. Look at the hail. This one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you go the past couple of scans, I want to see how that updraft is
Okay,
progressing
I
because
will
a
put it
lot
in.
of
I'll put it in motion for you.
yeah, sure, because again, that is a developing updraft. A lot of the hail that we could be seeing with that particular cell, it is further aloft. So I mean, obviously, there's that column of rising air. Um, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of that is saturated, and I mean, there's quite a bit of there's a good temperature contrast with this. So I mean, the hail threat with this particular storm is with that particular cell is I mean, if that updraft weakens, I think that's going to lead to some of the larger hail reaching the ground um, with that shower and and I mean that I think that is where we get more mixing with that. So I mean, if that energy, if we get a strong downdraft that does form with that cell, I mean, I think a lot of the shear's in place further north, but you can't rule out a spin up with cells like that. If
Yeah, I'm
that
not gonna roll it out.
does.
And it's like I said, there's could be some cells that storms could get the environment into, and I'm not seeing no couplets right now. But see, I'm starting to get these red colors. That'd be almost 50, 60 miles of wind with some of these. I mean, these could produce a severe thunderstorm warning, but I'm not gonna roll out a tornado warning the rest of the evening.
I mean, I would pay attention to areas again further south, not that far offshore in Georgia, no, but I mean just that corridor where I mean, so I mean that it does not appear to be tornadic, but there is some low level shear with that. And I mean, I would go closer to the Florida Georgia border where we have some of those severe storms ongoing. And
Right here.
well, I mean, some of those again, all of that along that corridors. I mean, some of that convection is weakening. Some of that those stronger downdrafts, those appear to be producing non-severe wind gusts. But if like, I mean, there's some there's an increase in low-level shear there, and I mean, I wouldn't pay attention to just that one area. Again, we are seeing a hail threat, but I think if that produces a stronger downdrafts, it would be no surprise to see some higher shear coming out with that one briefly. But yes, I mean,
Yeah, here's some strong storms up here, and I think these could probably produce any hail too. We'll have to watch these. Like this storm showing me a possibility of producing about 40% of it producing some hail, so that's pretty strong. All right, let me change this. Um, not
I
big.
believe there is small hail. Well, I mean, there might be small hail occurring with that cell, but the way things are looking, um, I think that the wind shear when you get that far east there, I mean, obviously we're going to have to pay attention to that particular cluster as it moves well into the South Carolina, uh, and I mean that's still where we have that
There's
slight
there was a pink marker right over here. I saw.
a pink
It's
marker.
going.
So,
Yeah, that's just
oh
rotation, right?
yeah, that is rotation that might be developing near the base. It could be weak, but I mean, if it substantially increases with the forthcoming scans, then there's that possibility that I'm sure the Weather Service is keeping a close eye on it. Um, but I do expect the more substantial tornado threat to be in place. With that frontal convection that you're seeing right along there. So I mean. So yeah, I mean, the highest low level shear is again across the eastern part of the Florida Peninsula into South Georgia. Again, the Florida Georgia border is a general area I would keep a close eye on. But even areas further north, not all the way to Macon, but you can see that cluster that is developing that has developed a little bit on the backside of that. And I mean, I think what we're seeing there is that I think some of that is, I mean, where there's a little bit higher helicity, where there have been some higher surface helicity returns with that. So I mean, if we do get enough dry air, or I mean, a window for surface. Surface-based fuel there within that particular area. I'd keep a close eye on that. Not all the way up to Macon, but like further down the I-75 corridors. You see, I mean, just keep a close eye. You can see that's the Moody Air Force Base radar, if I'm not mistaken. Um, yeah, I mean,
These clusters are here. These are the ones I'm concerned about. We could have a few isolated tornadoes with, right?
yeah, I
All
mean,
right, just a new warning down here now while we're on air.
okay. So I mean, yeah, definitely looking like I would expect maybe see what the hazard
All right,
what
that's the other
what the
one. All
hazards
right,
are.
here's it. All right, just got any thunderstorm warning, folks. This is down here in Florida, southeastern. Well, no, what's the county called? I can't pronounce it.
I mean, that is to the east of the Orlando area. Oh, excuse me. So I'm gonna
It's 60 miles of wind gusts. This is a wind-driven storm. So at 6:30 Eastern time, a severe thunderstorm was located over Inland and Eastern 40. So
yeah, I was gonna say
this storm is 60
yes,
miles
main
per wind.
hazard again, 60-mile-per-hour gusts. Yeah, so I'm going to see what the velocity returns are with that. I believe the initial concern here with that initial warning here, I believe that's where we had some. Oh yeah. Again, doesn't really look like there's too much hail with that, but it had a stronger updraft. I think we had plenty of saturated air with that updraft, but again, not to the point to where it would produce substantial 1-inch hail or greater. So I'm keeping a close eye on. Or I'm on the wrong way. I'm gonna so I'm looking at the Melbourne Weather Service radar here. So the way things do look with that with this activity, again, this cluster of cells that are tracking to the east of Orlando towards Mims, Scottsmore, and Oak Hill. That's where we have. So where we had outbound velocity returns. Yeah, I was gonna. Oops, I did not mean to do that. So
Yeah, it's like
some
6:15 now.
per-hour
This severe
velocity.
thunderstorm warning goes through 7:15 Eastern time. So this is mainly for 60 miles of wind gust. So that's really going to probably. So if you're in the warning, I probably would you want to take. So people need to go to a closet, or do they need to go to a basement this warning, Isaac? What do you represent in these kind of?
Yeah, generally in a severe thunderstorming, all I would do is, I mean, just make sure that
Get
you
away
are
from the
in
windows.
well, yes. I mean, get away from exterior walls, especially those facing the storm track. So I mean, the main impact statement again, localized damage to again roof, siding, trees, and just I mean, if you have any upper floors or any trees that could fall into your home, I'd get away from them. And if you
That's
are in
what
a
we
mobile
want you to
home,
do.
make sure if you plan to ride any of these out in mobile homes, again, I would make sure that you have a very sturdy foundation, or if it's a non-site built, I mean, especially one that's not properly anchored, or there's not a good proper foundation, or it's not anchored to the ground properly, or if it's an outbuilding or something that could, I mean, with these straight line winds, I wouldn't expect major concerns for mobile homes unless these are non-permanent structures that are not mounted to the ground properly. So I mean, I would treat this as if just stay in a hard topped. I mean, just don't be driving or going out. Again, if trees or anything were to fall on your mobile home,
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem.
I would just get away from the windows and again, just try and get low in case anything does fall. But generally, the best place to be in any kind of severe thunderstorm, the best place, like if there is a site built shelter available, I think that would be the safest place to be in a general severe thunderstorm because like low level shear can change like that, and then maybe
Pretty
you get
quick.
a microburst that develops,
Or small tornado.
and then sometimes yeah, sure, tornadoes can also spin up with very little warning. So I mean, generally sometimes just a very like a severe
I
thunderstorm
don't think
that maybe
I'm not gonna roll out, and
March.
I'm not rolling tornadoes out tonight.
Yeah, correct. And again, I would just again this a lot of these areas are. I mean, further north, that's where we have the highest corridor where there's a tornado watch.
Yeah, it's showing hail size up to about 1 inch with the storm down here.
Yeah, sure. And I will point out, so this
Look at
line of
that.
storms, uh, yeah, JD. I mean, I do expect a somewhat of a hail threat with these cells that have developed upscale. So I'm keeping an eye on this activity very closely. We can see across the eastern sections of the Panhandle, and basically what we're seeing is some higher gate-to-gate velocity returns with some of these cells that are developing just right over the Gulf of Mexico. So I understand there's no warnings towards like areas east of Tallahassee directly, but that might change here with some of these cells that are developing over the Gulf of Mexico right now. So we can see where there's special marine warnings are actually in effect. They have actually mentioned the potential for some embedded water spouts and again wind gusts 34
Yeah.
knots or
And
in this
I know it's getting warm
case.
down there in Florida, but you don't really want to get on a boat and start taking off, because a water spout can just turn that right over, just like a tornado, can it, Isaac?
Yeah, right. So so I'm keeping a close eye on some of these velocity returns here over sections of Florida, but there's regular, I mean, gate to gate velocity. I think this is the base shear with this particular activity is, I mean, there's something approaching 30 knots. I mean, this is just a broad area of low level shear. And I think on the back end, where we might be getting, I mean, a kink of some, I mean, a little bit of a stronger downdraft that could be developing just on the back side. That could produce a brief water spout. I mean, what the
All right,
concerns with that is.
here's our new marker trying to form again. We'll pull velocity up and see there's a little magenta there, so this sail could produce a tornado also too, couldn't it?
Well, it looks like there is some weak rotation that is developing near the base of that cell, but a lot of that, I mean,
Look at that.
it's vertical rotation, not basically horizontal. Yeah, I was going to say that appears to be producing. I mean, a lot. I mean, there is a very strong, very healthy updraft. Focus further left is with that supercell that is approaching South Newport. Is that yeah? That's in Georgia. So
Yeah.
there is rotation that might be somewhat developing near the base. I'd keep a close eye on how things are going with that, but it definitely looks like
We're trying to get another tornado going, probably.
I mean that's not substantial. That storm is not substantially tornadic. The way things are looking, when that updraft does weaken, that'll probably mix some of that energy at the ground, and then when that does happen,
Yeah.
I think
If you don't
rotation
even see a
might
tornado
develop
tonight,
a
you
little
can
bit
see some
more with that.
straight line winds can be worse than a tornado, folks. So you got to keep that in mind.
Well, yeah, I mean, in some cases, I mean, obviously, non-anchored mobile homes, outbuildings, even like homes with like weak siding, or I mean, even like non-site built homes or like cars, and even homes with like weaker foundations, and much older buildings. I mean,
Yeah,
those could
this
be an
storm's
issue.
really growing. This storm's
Yes,
really growing.
so I mean, for those in the path of this storm, just keep a close eye on things and
Yeah,
monitor
because if you
for
go under tornado warning today, folks, you're not going to have time just to fool around today. These storms are cocking at 40, some about 70 miles per hour, so you're not going to have time to start acting to it.
Yeah, and again, I will
And this
point
storm's,
out.
I'm going to take this off for a second, Isaac. We're starting to get a little weak sheared right over here.
Yeah, I was going to say that is all outbound velocity here from that radar. I can't really see what radar
All right, new
site
severe
that.
thunderstorm warning has just got in place right now. We got another one.
Yeah, I was going to say that corridor. Like just yeah, that is I mean, I would definitely see like there's a little bit higher shear returns with that cluster that is now
All
pushing
right,
ashore
all
there
right.
near Horseshoe
It
B.
said,
Is
yeah.
it a tornado possible warning? I would.
Let me read the text. I'm gonna check. Yeah, it has a possible tornado. At 6:40, a severe thunderstorm was located along a line extended from State Headache or 27 miles south of Horseshoe Point, moving east time 60 miles per hour. So what you expect? 60 miles of wind gusts and a hail the size of some quarters.
Yeah, I was
So
going to
if
say
you
the
would,
storm track with that is a little bit lower in terms of storm motion and storm vectors with that. So I mean, what might be happening there is if the storm slows up a bit, I think there could be some higher gate to gate shear that could develop and within that environment. So I mean, there is that potential that again. As we pointed out, just seeing some of those velocity returns just down the Gulf of Mexico, that they're not
and
impacting the
that's just
land right
feeding in a
now.
bunch of moisture to get things going. So if
Yeah,
you're
I
in the
mean,
path
there's
of
a
this severe
variety of
thunderstorm
velocity
warning,
returns. Yeah.
I mean, I would have gone to your tornado safe spot right now, but I probably just be ready in case this one would kind of would upgrade to a tornado because you're getting some red next to green right over here, right?
Yeah, I was going to say there is there's a broad area of very like base level shear that's in place, and I mean that could easily develop. Like I
A
mean
brief
something
tornado
could
spin up.
Yeah, I mean, I will point out there's a potential for a spin up along that. I mean, just right where that front converges, with that. So I mean, I would definitely watch as those storms do track over, that highly sheared environment. And I mean, definitely that line is something that we got to keep a really close eye on as it
Let me
tracks
check the
through.
potential for hail with that. There's no hail with that, but like I
Yeah,
said, this is why the tornado watch is in place because there's plenty of shear going. And like I said, the tornadoes you could see today, folks, there could be rain wrap, Isaac, right?
well, I mean, along that frontal convergence there, I mean, there's a sharp temperature contrast and sharp dew point contrast as well. So, I mean, where there is a little bit of drier air on the influence, just further ahead of
Yeah,
that.
and I won't be
Um,
surprised if this warning goes under a tornado warning because I'm starting to see some red next to green right over here.
I mean, it's not just simply like dark red next to dark green. That's not what you're keeping an eye on. We're watching for like substantially higher velocity returns that are gate to gate. That's kind of how I keep a close eye on thing. But if there's
Me too.
weak rotation, I mean, it's been present the past few scans. I mean, probably hasn't really produced much, but I mean, obviously that's where spotter reports and other things like that are handy because the radar may not always accurately depict. Like sometimes there's base level rotation, and it's depicting like the base velocity, like the 0.5 degree angle at the lowest level the radar can depict. Maybe it depicts something a little bit higher, and maybe a land spout tornado could develop. And
Yeah, and
you're
even if
not going to see
and
good
it doesn't
velocity.
matter if the land spout. A land spout can still do some damage as more as a tornado can.
Yeah, generally land spouts tend to produce below EF2 damage. We definitely want to keep an eye on the velocity datas with this, and it'll definitely help us determine whether there is rotation that is developing there and something that could potentially go tornadic there. So I mean, we're going to watch that line very closely as storms with that environment, with that frontal that uh, frontal convection is lofting into that highly sheared environment there over the eastern Florida panhandle and obviously well into South Georgia. And we're going to watch the northern flank of that as well, where, I mean, closer to this, that is closer to the surface low, I will point out. Like when you
Yeah.
get into the
Let
eastern
me check
sections
out
of
this other.
Carolina.
Yeah, let me check out the one out in Florida and see how it's doing. It's still giving me signs of some little red next to green there. We'll have to watch
Yeah.
that, won't we?
So I mean that is probably clutter, the data that's coming in with that, but I will point out there is a little bit of low level shear with that. Nothing that I would nothing that appears to be
Well,
tornadic.
here's something just came up here. Some new markers are showing
Yeah, there's
inch of
a
hail.
updraft with that. There is and a stronger elevated updraft with that cell that is definitely pushing into the along
Yeah, there's still some weak sheared here. So if you and this is what I learned on TV, Isaac. If you feel threatened to any of these storms, you can just go to your safe spot. I mean, the best place to be right now is just a small 2 room. I mean, just go. I mean, if you feel threatened by the winds, this is look like it's turning into a quasi system in it.
Well, I mean, this is already a. So I mean, it's not solely a quasi-linear convective storm mode. Not that. So I mean, just the overall system. Just you can see how I'm just looking at the broad picture here from just
Yeah,
west of
me too.
Gainesville all the way up to Georgia, well down into the Gulf. I mean, just definitely looking the way things are. I mean, there's definitely some embedded Boeing segments that are developing where there's some
Yeah,
higher
in the Boeing
low level.
serpents, I always learned in the past when I did all these events several years is the Boeing serpents. What that really did is it gives you very strong winds, and in the leading edge, you can get a base tornado that can spin up. Sometimes without no warning. I had that multiple times in Spiriton, when I used to live at. We had a couple of people had my cousin just had one thunderstorm that popped up and it kind of spinned, and there was no tornado warning with it. It just popped up. So
Yeah,
they can
right.
happen pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean
So
that
if
is definitely a possibility. Like something could go tornado warn that quick, or maybe something develops and there could be very little time to react or very little warning whatsoever.
yeah, so this
Sometimes,
is
so
why
I
you
mean,
need a weather radio, and I mean there's this storm here is still giving me signs of some potentially of some large maybe some hail with it. We're not going to talk about golf ball size hail. I don't think we'll see that kind of hail, but even quarter size hail can do enough damage a little bit, right, Isaac?
yeah. So I'm gonna see if there's any embedded like more elevated updraft because that gives me a hint for like I mean if there is a weakening updraft, there could be a little bit more mixing. We're gonna see how that goes. So yeah, the VIL. I mean, this is where we're
Let's
seeing
check the.
some
I'm
weaker
checking velocity
updrafts.
for it. All right, you check that. I'll look at the. I'll look at radar for everybody. I'm starting to see just potentially of this warning going into effect into around 7:15 Eastern time. The storm still could capable of ability of producing winds up to 60 miles per hour, and the hail threat still there. And it was showing that this potential for hail, but the one warning starting to get a new marker over here by this special marine warning. If that just pushes off land, then we'll be dealing with an isolated brief tornado. Am I
Yeah,
correct? Yeah,
yeah.
starting to get some.
There's definitely that possibility.
And tonight, tonight, I mean, we can see tornadoes, but like I said, I'm not going to roll out a tornado before the night's up. Will you?
Yeah, definitely. So I'm going to see what the enhanced echo tops. Yeah, that's definitely a better view for me. But we're seeing some. There's some stronger height falls. Some of the echo tops. So I mean, I think we had some higher top storms like that were topping at times like a little over 48,000 feet at their maximum. I think
All
now
right. The
what
last.
they're
Okay. The last time I checked today, the Storm Prediction Center at 2 p.m. updated a hatch area for tornadoes. So everybody probably wants to know what that means. I'll tell them. That means a significant threat of isolated strong tornadoes. Is that what it means?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there is a chance that there could be a stronger tornado within, some of these stronger downdrafts. And as all this frontal convection moves into that area of substantial, a little bit higher wind shear, I mean, this is where we could be potentially talking.
Yeah, and
I
some
mean, where
people
there's
don't
some
know what wind
stronger
shear
height
is.
falls and
Let me
stronger
tell people
downdrafts
what.
that may.
Let me tell people what wind shear is. While I'm on here, wind shear, folks, is when the winds go turn different directions. And in today's atmosphere is set up today, where you could get a couple strong tornadoes. We're not talking about a long track day tornado, but however, I learned it only takes one tornado and it comes down your street, then that's a bad day for you. Am I correct, Isaac?
Mm-hmm. Definitely, and I'll touch on that wind shear a bit. I mean, we've seen returns of well over 30 knots, potentially in the 40 to 50 range when you get well north of Florida into Georgia as well. So, I mean, this is where we're talking. I mean, winds are like, gate to gate. They're like much stronger winds going one direction and much stronger winds
Mm-hmm.
going down another direction. And then when the heights are changing too, so I mean that's where you not only have some horizontal shear, there could be much stronger vertical wind shear. So I mean, when you get that, there could be some upscale flow forcing. Just given the strong dynamics with this system overall. So I mean, you got some of these winds are pushing towards each other at times as well, and when you get some mixing that occurs, like a weakening down updraft. I mean, all that air kind of sinks down towards the ground and then it mixes in with some of those, inbound velocities, and then
All right, the
that's
hail
where you
threat
could
went
get a
down on that
stronger
storm. That's a
circulate.
good thing.
That's where you could get a stronger circulation to form. When there's a weakening updraft, maybe the hail threat goes down a bit. Maybe there's much stronger hail that's falling towards the ground. But then when there's sinking air, where you likely indicate that there's hail, there could be an increase in the tornado threat if you do get
Yeah, and
enough
I'm
of the.
kind of worried about if this storm over here was over by off land. This would have been a tornado because it's tightened up like that.
Yeah, sure. And again, looks like there's an area of developing base level rotation with that. We're going to see how that does progress over the next couple of scans. But I mean, if it gets a little bit broader or maybe a little bit more tighter over the next couple of scans, then there is that, there is somewhat of a possibility they could easily go with the tornado warned with one of those that do form.
So, like I said, nobody's in no tornado warning yet. Like I said, not means we're out of the woods. We think. How long do you think this will go on, Isaac? You want to tell people how long you think this will go on to tonight?
So I mean, again, this round of storms. I mean, this could. I mean, this. There's enough low-level shear to really get things going. Just over the next couple of hours, I would pay very close attention. But I mean, as the storm system definitely makes its track, I mean that upper-level system. I mean, we're dealing with Arctic cold. You folks in Florida are probably much lucky to have
Yeah,
warm weather, but the side effects of warm weather are tornadoes.
yeah.
It's like typical
Like I said,
springtime weather, but the
yeah,
temperatures are
and
rapidly falling too on the
yeah,
backside
we
of that.
already
So I
had.
mean,
See, folks, everybody know what happened in January. We had that one tornado hit Alabama that was pretty strong, and this is how we get in the springtime. And like I said, we'll be here through the even tonight, tracking this whole line of storms. And if we do think there's a tornado threat, we always pop on. So far, we have no tornado warning in place yet, but I'm not going to completely say no about it right now. It's still. Isaac, can you check on the Storm Prediction Center and see how the wind shear's looking? With the files and
yeah.
stuff.
So I'm going to go to. Yeah, Norm. I'm going to do a quick look here at the
Yeah, I'm going to
mesoanalysis
look at
here.
something.
See what this.
While we're on there, I'm going to check out something too. I'm going to go on to the significant tornado parameters while we're on our coverage. So I'm going to use to her, so that'll always tell something maybe. Well,
Yeah.
if the new model's even loaded up yet, well, it looks like it's not yet. So, all right,
Yeah.
the next step I'll go with the NAM now.
Yeah, I would maybe some of the earlier HRRR run. I mean, I could definitely pull some of that up.
Well, I got some of it here too.
Unfortunately, I cannot share my screen since I am actually on an iPad, and StreamYard did not add
Oh,
that ability for iPad yet.
okay. Look at
But
here. Here's the significant tornado parameters. Look at that.
Yeah, and again, I will point out the SCP. There's a lot of algorithms within there that depict. It combines the storm relative helicity product. Near the ground.
That was 3 o'clock. Let me check that. That was 3 p.m. So let me check. See, here's 6 o'clock. We're still not out of the woods, Isaac. Look at that.
Yeah.
Let me take a look.
Definitely very modest on the STP. So I mean, while you can't rule out a tornado, you can't rule out something stronger that may form locally with that. So definitely something to keep a really close eye on, especially where you got that tornado watch now, where we have the prime focus for severe thunderstorms and tornadoes that do develop here heading into the late evening. And again, that's where we think that there's definitely plenty of low-level shear available. That frontal convection.
And still, look at 9 o'clock, Isaac. This is when the sun goes down. We still have shear to work with down here, so it's pretty different in it. We have still wind shear to work with at 9 p.m.
Yeah, correct. I mean,
and look here at midnight. Then we might have a little bit better tomorrow, but I'm concerned with Wednesday. Take a look at the NAM. Look at that. We're starting to get a little bit more orange again, so that's over 3, so that's still significant.
Yeah, and again, I will point out the North American model, the NAM. I mean, if that isn't the non-convective convection allowing model, I mean that does give us a good hint on what this latter round may look like here heading into Wednesday, because the dynamics with this particular system are quite impressive, and I mean there's going to be a lot of similarities with this next storm system altogether. So I mean, where we're seeing some of the heavier snowfall over sections of the Tennessee and Ohio valleys, and now making its onset well into the Great Lakes. I mean, where we have some of those heavier snow rates embedded, within there. I mean, the snow ratios are much higher, so at times we'll probably end up seeing heavier snowfall than what was initially predicted. So I mean,
I don't even know how much I got yet. So I'm looking at the storm again down here in Florida area. This storm still gives me signs of some weak shear. Let me pull up and see if the text is still the same.
Yeah.
It's still there.
I'm still thinking that it's definitely still evident that there is a little bit of base level rotation with that. Definitely in that progressive environment where there could be maybe a little bit stronger low level shear embedded within that cell. But I will point out the higher storm relative felicities are well to the north of that. So I mean, any tornado threat that would develop with that would be fairly embedded, and I mean it's not going to be anything substantial. Nothing that is that eastern warning that one near Orlando? Has the Weather Service put a tornado tag out for that one?
No, there's a hail threat down here, but over here is what's caused me a little concern. It still has that tornado tag, but still, I mean that doesn't mean a tornado's developing, but there's still some weak shear there. Let me turn things on here. Yeah, there's a little bit of weak. I mean, and see, and there's another circulating little dot there. And this is a night where you have to watch the radars. I mean, I'm going to say you could go out, you could do your own thing tonight if you wanted to, but like I said, I mean, we're not going to think this is going to be a big disaster or anything. Have your weather radio, you got to have multiple ways to get warnings, right, Isaac? You just can't go on with your night without this, because this is not going to be no tornado outbreak, but at least if you have a tablet, if you like our site, you could always watch us on there, right? And we always do a coverage.
Yeah, correct.
So Isaac, when we were talking about this the last couple of days, how bad this was going to be, were you expecting to have an enhanced today, or you were just thinking this was just going to be a slight all day?
Well, again, the dynamics with this system are fairly unique, and sometimes, we won't know like days ahead, like well in advance that, we would see a strong indication for like, the unique dynamics that we're seeing now with the.
But it's almost. But it's almost March, so a week or so, in a week it'll be March.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah. Right. And
get
again,
into springtime. So the new folks, I just got a
yeah.
report
Again,
coming in from my desk here, showing here trees and power lines at Boston Highway still RD or out. That'd be
yeah. I
Jefferson
was gonna
County,
say.
Florida, from the emergency manager.
Yep.
And you think that's the winds or a tornado probably did that? You think, or wind gust
I
did that?
mean,
You think?
all we know is that there's an embedded area of stronger winds within there. I mean,
Yeah,
that for strong
here's some
down.
sheared again here. Look at that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's a little bit higher.
I think there'll be a warning text with that. Because once you get 1.5 size hail, is that what's falling from the sky, or you think that's going to
One
be hit?
Once there's a stronger downdraft that does develop with that, I think the hail threat's probably
Yep,
going to get a little bit
there's the
higher with
warning.
that.
I was right. There's the warning.
Yeah, it definitely looks like that. You know,
All right, we just got a new severe thunderstorm warning. A new thunderstorm warning for Effingham County and South Central Georgia, Champaign County and Central Georgia, Jasper County and South Central Carolina to 7:30. At 7:01, a severe thunderstorm was located over I-16 to I-95 and moving north at 65 miles an hour. So hazardous, 60 miles of wind gusts and the hail the size of quarters. So this is kicking at 65 miles per hour. So a fast moving storm again. We'll pull up velocity on this. There could be some weak shear there. Excuse me. Look at that, Isaac. Some weak shear there again.
yeah, I
So
was going to say it's fairly weak. I mean, not
the hail threat,
no
I'm looking at the hail
tornado.
threat. That looks very large hail there. So technically, that is a pretty strong sail. I mean, it doesn't have no tornado text on the bottom, so that'd be some fantastic news. But still, I think there's going to be some weak shear in these, and these storms are separate from each other, and that's what's causing your super sails. So far, I'm
Yeah,
still watching
definitely
this
at
one
times.
thunderstorm. Watching the storm, it still has some pretty decent rotation with it. Some decent colors. Let me pull up the. What do you think, Isaac? I'll put it in new scans. You think that storm is increasing any more sheared?
Well, I mean, it's been consistent. Like there's been some weaker shear with that, but it's moving in the environment that's a little bit more concerning. You know, a little bit strong, a tad bit stronger on the low level shear returns here. I mean, just saying. You know, what I'm looking at here is I'm gonna see what the 0 to 1 kilometer shear is. I mean, we're going from like in areas where there's at least 20 knots to an area that's a little bit higher, like 30 to 35. This is kind of a broader area of wind shear, I think near like 40 knots. But I mean, this is all within 1 kilometer. So I mean, I think what we got to watch here is, you know, the higher wind shear that's in place further aloft and how that does mix down at the ground. You know, because that's when we're looking at you know the more embedded dynamics with this in terms of when you're looking at the overall risk for tornadoes and stronger downdrafts that will lead to some damaging winds at times with this particular line that this activity that's developing over the Gulf, and something definitely to keep a close eye on here as we go over the next couple of hours. And again, we're not increasing the feed thing to
No.
level 2 or level 3 or anything right now, but I mean, definitely just we're at the situation where we want to keep a close eye on things.
Because
Still at
things
level
could
1,
really
but
change. Because we're in a tornado watch down here, and one thing we do have to watch is these storms can get out of hand pretty quick today.
yeah, right. I mean, we'll obviously keep a close eye on that severe thunderstorm warning, and again, we could always initiate or yeah, I mean, just generally looking at things, you know, there's been definitely some stronger, a little bit higher rotation that has been developing near some of the bases, but I think it's like we're gonna like I mean, the strongest low level shear would definitely be in place a little
Oh,
bit
there's
further.
something to look at that. Is that
Yeah, I
tighten
mean
up? You think?
It's been a little bit weaker rotation with that, but still definitely looking like I think is I think what we're gonna watch out for is just a little bit stronger frontal convergence as just right out ahead of what I mean just we're gonna keep a close eye on a little bit more frontal convergence. Just right along the front there, and some of the stronger updrafts are over the Gulf, and as they do weaken as they move ashore, that is going to be concerning when you get your potential tornado threat. So definitely
Mhm.
something to keep a close eye on, those storms that are developing over the Gulf. So we're not really seeing so many developments here. Just most of what we got going on is just those two warnings, not anything that we'll have to
Yeah.
stay on for a while for. But we
Yeah.
might
So
need to return for feeds here later this evening, just contingent on.
so so we want to continue to watch these storms come in. If we do see any new warnings, if I see a couple new severe thunderstorm warnings, or if we see any tornado warnings, we'll pop on to let you know. You think we should take a break, Isaac?
Okay.
We'll continue to keep you updated on the
Yeah.
information.
We'll be back when we get developments here.